Good morning, everyone. This is Carrie McCann-Botel, President of the Iowa Council of Foundations. Thanks for joining us this morning for our webinar, 10 Ways to Strategically Invest Your County Endowment Fund Dollars. We have about 10 folks on the line this morning. If you could please just mute your line while we go through our webinar this morning, that would be great. And then at the end, we will open it up for questions and discussion if anyone else has any points that they'd like to add to the presentation this morning. Each year, there are 84 counties in Iowa that receive County Endowment Fund dollars through the County Endowment Fund program. And one of the things that Michelle and I hear throughout the year is that a lot of people fund the same programs and the same types of projects year after year. So we thought this would be a way to share some ideas across the state of things that we have heard about and strategies that we've seen working well in communities, so you can take those ideas back into your counties as well. So before we dive into the 10 ways to invest the dollars, I thought it would be good if we just quickly review the goals of the County Endowment Fund program. The purpose is to redistribute a percentage of the state gaming revenues each year to the counties in Iowa that do not hold state-issued gaming licenses. So I mentioned that that's 84 counties right now. The goal is for there to be a long-term sustainable funding source for every county in Iowa each year. So even those that don't have the state-issued gaming licenses, or that do have state-issued gaming licenses rather, are receiving distributions from their gaming facilities. So each county is receiving a piece of investment each year for charitable causes. The 75% of the award that's given each year is to be granted out into the county, and 25% remains in the county's County Endowment Fund. That County Endowment Fund really works to create a giving vehicle for donors in all counties so they can contribute directly to that County Endowment Fund or other funds that are created at the county affiliate funds throughout the year. The goal of the affiliate funds and the affiliate advisory board is to work to grow that endowment and other types of funds in communities and counties across Iowa. And because of this, we now have a community foundation and or affiliate fund in each county throughout our state. The charitable investments are happening every single year, and that becomes a sustainable source of grant revenues that each county can depend on. And those dollars ultimately are to invest in community development efforts in counties and communities across Iowa. So just wanted to start there with a quick review of why the County Endowment Fund was created and what the goals are behind the program. And we will go ahead and dive into the 10 ideas for strategic investment. So the first idea is investing in your county affiliates' self-promotion and marketing. And a lot of the affiliates that I talk with throughout the year don't really know that this is an option. And just for reference, this is on the Iowa Community Foundations.org website under the County Endowment Fund's Frequently Asked Questions section. So if you ever want to reference that, you can find this information there, and we'll also be posting this webinar recording on the Iowa Council of Foundations website. So the IEDA and the Iowa Council of Foundations suggest a guideline of no more than 5% of the available funding each year to be used for philanthropic promotion by the community foundation and or community affiliate organization. That 5% should come from the 75% allotment to be used for grant making. Again, I think there's been some confusion about how that 5% is figured, so it shouldn't be on the full distribution that your county receives each year. It should just be 5% of the 75% that's available for grant making. So just wanted to clarify that. If your organization is seeking to use that 5%, the funds should be requested through your typical grant application process. So there is documentation regarding the proposed use of the funds, and it's also considered with the other opportunities for funding requests and reviewed on and awarded on the same merit. The philanthropic promotion might include items such as administrative or training purposes, organizational planning, board education and training, outreach, marketing and communications efforts, funding needs assessments, et cetera. So there are a variety of ways that these dollars can be used. And if you have any questions or want some clarification on a specific item that you're looking to fund, please just reach out to our office and we'd be happy to provide some guidance on that. So just know that you are able to take 5% of your 75% allotment for grant making for self-promotion annually. The second investment strategy is really looking at community and economic development. I mentioned at the beginning that one of the goals of the County Endowment Fund program is for philanthropy to be partners in working on community development efforts and projects. And one effective way to do this is to partner with your local economic development office or city planners or other governmental agencies in your community. Working together with these partners allows you opportunities to really braid funding from a variety of sources to make things happen in your community and to fully fund projects. So an idea would be to consider starting a fund specifically for economic development or community development that donors in your communities can contribute to. I know that Joe Sorensen has shared an idea on how that's been working in one of his communities, and maybe when we wrap up at the end here, I'll ask you to share a little bit more about that, Joe. I see that you're logged on. The third idea is looking at rural creative placemaking. This is an idea that has been talked about with the Affiliate Liaisons group this year, and we're hoping to bring it to our CEO network and more fully connect it with other community foundations across the state throughout the next year as well. And rural creative placemaking is considering investing in projects that make your community a desirable place to live, work, and raise a family. Oftentimes, these rural creative placemaking projects are taking buildings or old infrastructure and repurposing spaces to incorporate art programs, community space, wellness and recreation centers, really multi-purpose space for communities to really engage their citizens and provide benefits for their citizens. Current work is happening with this concept of rural creative placemaking in Dubuque, Fort Dodge, and other locations throughout Iowa. And we are looking at how to bring some of those stories to the Connect conference this year, so look for more information on that in the next couple months as we release our agenda. I've also included a link here to a YouTube video. Zach Mannheimer is a leader in this rural creative placemaking space here in Iowa, and he gives some great examples in the presentation of the YouTube video of how this can work and some of the successes that they've had throughout the state. So that might be a good thing to listen to over a lunch break, for example, and I've included that link there so you can check it out. The fourth idea is to invest in a community needs assessment. So funding needs assessments in communities and visioning processes can really help to bring people in your community together around shared goals. And the needs assessment is beneficial in a lot of different ways. First of all, it's beneficial for you and your board. You can use that information to help tailor your grant making process each year to really meet the needs that your community has identified. But also that needs assessment can be used by other nonprofits and community organizations in your county. So it's really a win-win to invest in these types of projects. I did mention that your self-promotion grant could be used to fund a needs assessment, but it would also be a great investment for you to make in funding a grant to a nonprofit partner in your community as well. So we have really seen tremendous value for our county affiliate partners in conducting these needs assessments and then using it to inform their work. We do have a couple successful examples of needs assessments and community visioning processes that have been used. So if you are interested in exploring this, please reach out to our office and we'd be happy to put you in touch with some of the partners across Iowa who have been leading this work. The fifth idea is to invest in community collaboratives or networks. This is really a trend in the philanthropic sector right now to be investing in these collaboratives and networks versus funding several nonprofits to do different projects or different work. It's really aligning efforts so partners can come together around one table and work together on common goals. These community collaboratives could be focused on a community initiative that might be a result of one of your needs assessment processes. Or it may be a table that you as a leader in your community in your advisory committee may be interested in forming around a specific issue area based on that needs assessment. So this can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, and it would be up to your board to determine the strategic initiative that they'd be interested in supporting in this way. The most important thing is that you're finding the right people and the right organizations to partner with on this work and making sound investments in collaboratives that really have the recipe for success: shared measurement, shared goals and outcomes, and everyone contributing to the work and the shared movement of the collaborative. The sixth idea is to fund nonprofit capacity building. Again, this is something that is becoming more common in the philanthropic world, and many of our community foundation partners have already moved to funding nonprofit capacity building efforts. You'll also know that we fund capacity building through our process each spring, and now we'll have a fall cycle as well. I often get questions about what we really mean when we say capacity building, and at ICoF we use a really broad view of capacity building, and there's lots of different categories and activities that can fall into capacity building. So I wanted to share some of these as an idea for you to consider when you're looking at different grant proposals, what nonprofit capacity building activities really can look like. So the first bucket is training and development. We mentioned thinking about board training and education. These dollars could also be used to send nonprofit staff and board members to conferences or educational opportunities, and could also fund their participation in workshops or webinars locally or at the state level. The second bucket is collaboration and coaching. Investing in coaching services for leadership at nonprofits is a way to grow the capacity of the nonprofit leaders in your community. You could also fund bringing programs to scale. Maybe one year you've used your county endowment fund dollars to fund a pilot project and it had been successful. The next year you could fund that pilot project and really bringing it to scale, maybe in more locations or in serving more people. Scaling can really look a lot of different ways. I mentioned funding collaborative projects. You could also fund peer mentoring and exchange programs or shared data collection. It's something that we've seen becoming community-wide strategies and sharing data systems across programs. And then the last bucket here is research and planning. So looking at funding consulting services, the data collection, as I mentioned, evaluation and organizational assessment to make sure that we are investing in programs that are proven and that are working, investing in strategic planning and also succession planning. So all these things that we know that are important to our organizations and our affiliate and county affiliate programs are also important to our nonprofit partners that we're funding. So county endowment fund dollars are a great way to invest in those things for your organization. Along the same lines as nonprofit capacity building is investing in nonprofit operations and sustainability. There's a big overhead myth in the philanthropic sector that folks do not want to fund overhead expenses. There's some great resources from Grant Makers for Effective Organizations about why it's really important to be investing in overhead expenses because we need to keep the lights on and the doors open and people in positions to make this work happen. So if your organization has been shying away from making those types of investments in the past, we would certainly advocate for investing in operating expenses and overhead costs in your local nonprofits. This can include overhead expenses, funding new staff members, supporting marketing and communications efforts and succession planning, and also funding technology improvements. So that's a little bit more of a capital investment, and a lot of our county affiliate programs are funding that type of thing, but know that those technological improvements are really investing in operations and sustainability as well. The eighth idea is to invest in community leadership and board development. We know that community leadership is really what makes projects come off the ground and come to life, and we also know that board development is really important in our state as we look to bring more people into leadership positions on affiliate advisory committees and community foundations boards of directors. So a few ideas would be to identify existing programs in your community that are training young leaders, or existing programs in your communities that are training people on board governance and roles and responsibilities, and to invest in those programs because, again, they'll help the nonprofit community at large, but they'll also be a strategy for you to invest in succession planning for your own affiliate advisory committee or board. If these programs don't exist, you may want to look outside of your community to identify nonprofit partners in our state or in other counties that could help make things happen in your community or could be a model that you could replicate in your community as well. Again, we have a few counties that are doing a really good job in this space, and we'd be happy to connect you with some of the partners who are leading this work as well. The ninth idea is to invest in existing programs, models, or frameworks. So instead of spending time reinventing the wheel, there are a number of things that are already working in our state that maybe aren't happening in your county but would be something that your board might be interested in pursuing. An example of that that's been happening already in our state is looking at the campaign for grade level reading. Just 3 years ago, there were 6 communities participating in the campaign for grade level reading. And right now we have 12 communities engaged and soon to be 13. So it's a program model that was developed at the national level and has been tailored to meet the needs of each unique community. And because of that, communities have been able to sign on to the campaign and bring that program model and methodology to their communities. Another example of that would be the Heart and Soul process. It's through the Orton Family Foundation and is currently being facilitated by the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque and a few communities and counties in Northeast Iowa. So again, another existing program model where there's already expertise in our state. So instead of reinventing the wheel in your county, tap into those resources and connect those folks into your county as well. And the same goes for youth philanthropy. We have 10 plus youth philanthropy groups at community foundations and private foundations across the state. The Iowa Council of Foundations works to connect those groups annually through our youth philanthropy conference. But if this is something that you'd be interested in funding in your community, we have program models and curriculum that we could share with you to get that off the ground and a network of partners who could help advise you in building your program. And the 10th idea is really to use your county endowment fund dollars to invest alongside your donors. If your county endowment fund funding is not meeting all of your community needs, which we know it certainly is not in every county, it really presents an opportunity for you and your advisory committee to find ways to engage donors to fill those gaps. So one thing you could do is share funding opportunities with your donor advisors. Maybe you've reviewed 30 grant proposals and you can only fund 20 of them. You could share the 10 unfunded proposals with your donor advisors or your general donors to see if they'd be able to fill those gaps and meet those needs. You could also publish unfunded grants in an e-newsletter or on your website and ask community members and donors to help meet those funding requests as well. And finally, I just want to reemphasize that your role, of course, is to grant out those county endowment fund dollars, but it's also to continue growing your county endowment fund so that annual distribution, which is really unrestricted, can be used for grant making as well. So that 5% payout or whatever the payout rate is at your community foundation could be used to also fund some of the grant requests. And we've seen some counties doing that rather effectively. So those are our 10 ideas for you that we have heard, ideas from county affiliate partners across the state and really pulled them into this list of 10 ideas. But I know we have a few folks on the line this morning that likely have good examples of some of the work that's going on with their affiliate partners So I'd like to open up the line if anyone has any points to add to these 10 ideas or other ideas that you've seen working well in your communities. Please just go ahead and unmute your line and chime in with those suggestions.
The conference has been unmuted.
Carrie, this is Joe Sorensen from Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines. And can you hear me, Carrie?
Yes, hi, Joe.
Quick question. So I have some affiliates that have put in grant guidelines, and one of those guidelines has been the maximum amount that they were willing to grant per project. And I haven't been here the whole time of the program, and sometimes I get feedback saying that, well, that was a requirement from the state when we got started. We had to have a maximum amount. Is there any history to that, or I keep encouraging them to remove that guideline because I want them to be able to participate in larger projects in the community, but didn't know if others have run across that across the state.
I have not read anything like that in any of the program administrative rules. I'd certainly be glad to go back and check and see if I can find anything in our historical records. But I guess I'd open that question up to the group if any affiliate committees have had that discussion elsewhere in the state. Yeah, Joe, I'll circle back with you on that. I'll check our files and see if I can find anything, but I have not heard that before, and it isn't something that our office has been advising.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'm fairly certain it's not one, but yeah, if you had like what the guidelines were, if there are none, that would be helpful so we can reinforce that they could build out grant guidelines that meet their community needs and not think it's from a kind of a statewide level.
Right, yep. I'll circle back with you on that, and I can include others who are on the call so you have the answer to that as well. Joe, would you be willing to share the example about the county that started the Economic Development Fund?
Yeah, definitely. It's not quite up and going yet, but we have convened. So in Marshall County, currently the local community foundation, their regional partnership, which includes the Economic Development Office, and then Vision Marshalltown, which is a community planning organization, have come together and had a few meetings around how they can engage donors in supporting economic and community development activities. It's been fun to be part of because it's a little bit education because like traditional economic development activities like business recruitment and expansion are always permissible to fund through grant making, but it's been good to have the conversation around how can we build the environment or culture in Marshall County where businesses want to grow and expand, and what does their workforce want in Marshall County for them to live and work there. So that's kind of ongoing. We did have I want to put a quick plug in for Hamilton County, specifically Webster City. The CEO of Twitter was just there on Friday, and Twitter owns Square, the credit card processing company, and they're doing this campaign across the United States where they're highlighting community revitalization. So they did a short documentary on the reopening of the movie theater in Webster City, which was a project taken on right after their largest employer shut down about a decade ago, which they lost about 25% of their jobs in that community, and how the community kind of came around to reopen this theater as kind of the putting their flag in the ground saying we're not going to die away, but we're going to build out from here. And that local community foundation was a lead investor in that project and also served as the fiscal sponsor. So that was kind of neat to kind of see that come about. So if you go to the Community Foundation's Facebook page, you can see that YouTube video, and it's worth watching. It's a good story.
Great. Thanks, Joe. I actually watched the video yesterday. It is really great if folks can take a few minutes to watch it. Any other comments from other community foundations or affiliate partners across the state who are on the call this morning? Okay, well, we had this scheduled for 30 minutes this morning, so it looks like we're right on target there. Thanks for joining us. Please know that we have recorded this webinar and we'll be posting it to our website. If you are an affiliate liaison and work with a number of affiliates in your region, please share the webinar recording with your partners so they have these ideas as they review County Endowment Fund grant proposals throughout this next year. County Endowment Fund reports will be due by August 16th this year. Please make sure that you are working with your affiliate partners to collect that information. Once we get that collected and submitted to the Department of Revenue and Iowa Economic Development Authority, the next year's funding will be released, and we'll be in touch about that information. Also, please note, if you haven't already, the Connect Conference this year will be Thursday, September 14th, so we'd like to get that on your calendars and on the partner calendars as well. And we look forward to sharing more ideas about how we can make strong investments in our communities and grow those endowment funds for sustainability in our counties across Iowa. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.